David always felt different from everyone else. While his friends spent Friday nights at bars or watching movies, he found himself on the roof of his small cabin, staring at the stars through an old telescope his grandfather left him. The night. Sky felt like home in a way his actual home never did. He worked as a computer programmer, which meant he could live anywhere with good internet. After his grandfather passed away 2 years ago, David moved to the family's old ranch house in the mountains of Colorado. The place was perfect for what he loved most, watching the stars without any city lights getting in the way. Every clear night, David would set up his telescope and spend hours looking at planets, star clusters, and anything else he could find. He even started a small blog where he wrote about what he saw. Not many people read it, but that didn't matter to him. The stars were calling him, and he had to answer. David's neighbors thought he was a bit strange. They would see him outside at 2 in the morning, bundled up in winter clothes, just standing there looking up. His mother worried about him living alone in such a remote place. "You need to get out more," she would say during their weekly phone calls. "Meet some people your age." But David didn't feel lonely when he was under the stars. He felt connected to something bigger than himself. Sometimes, when he looked up at the Milky Way, he had this weird feeling that someone was looking back at him. It sounds crazy, but that's exactly how it felt. The night everything changed was September 15th, 2019. There was going to be a harvest moon eclipse, and David had been planning to photograph it for weeks. He set up his camera and telescope early around 9 o'clock, even though the eclipse wouldn't start until after midnight. The air was crisp and clear. Perfect conditions. David made himself some hot coffee and settled in for the long wait. Always felt peaceful during these moments. Just him and the universe having a quiet conversation. As the moon started to turn red during the eclipse, David noticed something odd. There was a light moving across the sky, but it wasn't like any airplane or satellite he'd ever seen. This light was bigger, brighter, and it was moving in ways that didn't make sense. It would speed up, slow down, and even change direction instantly. At first, David thought maybe it was some kind of military aircraft. The government tested secret planes all the time. But then the light started coming down, getting bigger and brighter as it got closer to the ground. David's heart started beating faster. This was definitely not normal. The object landed about half a mile from his house, in the open field where his grandfather used to keep horses. David stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. Part of him wanted to run inside and hide. But a bigger part of him, the part that had been staring at stars his whole life, knew he had to go see what it was. He grabbed a flashlight and started walking across the field. The grass was wet with dew, and his boots made soft, squelching sounds with each step. As he got closer, he could see that the object wasn't making any noise at all. It was perfectly silent, which was strange for something that had just flown through the sky. The craft looked like nothing he'd ever seen before. It was smooth and oval-shaped, about the size of a small house, and it seemed to glow with a soft blue light from within. There were no visible engines, no windows, no doors that he could see. It was beautiful in a way that made his chest feel tight. David was about 50 feet away when he saw her. She stepped out of the craft like she was walking through water. One moment, the side of the ship was solid, and the next moment, she was standing in the field, looking directly at him. David's flashlight fell from his hand, but somehow he could see her perfectly in the soft glow from her ship. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with skin that looked like it was made of moonlight. Her hair was long and silver, and her eyes were the color of deep space, dark blue with tiny points of light that looked like stars. She wore clothes that seemed to move like liquid, changing color from blue to purple to silver as she walked toward him. David wanted to run, wanted to scream, wanted to do anything except stand there like a statue, but he couldn't move. Not because he was scared, though he definitely was, but because looking at her felt like coming home after being lost for his entire life. When she was about 10 feet away from him, She stopped and smiled. It was the most beautiful smile David had ever seen, warm and knowing, like she was greeting an old friend she hadn't seen in years. Then she spoke, but not with her mouth. Her voice appeared inside his head, gentle and musical, like wind chimes. In a soft breeze, "Hello, David," she said without saying anything out loud. "I've been waiting so long to finally meet you." David's knees almost gave out. She knew his name. This impossible, beautiful being from another world knew his name. "Who are you?" he managed to whisper. "My name is Luna," she replied, still speaking, directly into his mind. "And you and I have been connected across time and space for longer than you can imagine. I've been watching over you since you were a small child, waiting for the right moment to reveal myself." David's mind was racing. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to ordinary people like him. But here she was, standing in his grandfather's field under the eclipse moon, telling him they had some kind of cosmic connection. "I know this is overwhelming," Luna continued, her mental voice full of kindness. "You've always felt different, haven't you? Like you didn't quite belong here? Like you were meant for something more?" David nodded slowly. That's exactly how he'd felt his entire life. "That's because part of your soul comes from the same place I do," Luna explained. "You chose to be born here on Earth, but your true home is among the stars. That's why you've always been drawn to the night sky. That's why you feel so peaceful when you're looking up at the universe. You were remembering home." They stood there for what felt like hours, though it might have been minutes. Luna told him about her world, a place of incredible beauty orbiting a star in the Pleiades cluster. She told him about her people, beings of light and love who had been watching over Earth for thousands of years, and she told him about their connection, a bond that went deeper than anything he could understand with his human mind. "Why now?" David finally asked. "Why are you showing yourself to me now?" Luna's expression became more serious. "Because Earth is changing, David. Your whole planet is going through a spiritual awakening, and people like you, people with cosmic souls, are here to help with that transition. You have a role to play in what's coming." Before David could ask what she meant, Luna started walking back toward her ship. "This is just the beginning," she told him. "I will come to you again soon, when you're ready to learn more. But for now, you need time to process what has happened tonight." "Wait," David called out, suddenly panicked at the thought of her leaving. "When will I see you again?" Luna turned back and smiled that incredible smile again. "When the moon is new in 2 weeks, come back to this spot at midnight. I'll be waiting for you." She walked to her ship and disappeared through its wall just as easily as she had emerged. The craft rose silently into the air, hovered for a moment as if saying goodbye, then shot up into the sky and vanished among the stars. David stood alone in the field for a long time, staring up at the place where Luna's ship had disappeared. The eclipse was over and the moon was back to its normal silver color. Everything looked the same as it had a few hours ago, but David knew that nothing would ever be the same again. He had met a goddess from the stars, and she had told him he was meant for something extraordinary. As he walked back to his house, David felt like he was finally waking up from a dream he'd been having his whole life. The real adventure was just beginning. The 2 weeks after meeting Luna felt like the longest 2 weeks of David's life. He tried to go back to his normal routine, working on his computer, writing his astronomy blog, talking to his mother on the phone. But everything felt different now. It was like he was living in 2 worlds at the same time. During the day, David would convince himself that the whole thing had been a dream. Maybe he had fallen asleep in the field during the eclipse and imagined everything. But then night would come, and he would feel this pull toward the stars that was stronger than ever before. Deep in his heart, he knew Luna was real. The dreams started 3 days after their meeting. At first, they were just flashes of images that didn't make sense. He would see crystal cities floating in space, beings of light moving through gardens filled with plants that glowed like jewels, and always, Luna's face smiling at him from across impossible distances. But as the days passed, the dreams became clearer and more detailed. David found himself walking through what felt like memories, but they weren't his memories, at least not from this life. In one dream, he was standing on a platform made of some kind of living crystal, looking out at 3 purple suns hanging in a lavender sky. Luna was beside him, but she looked different, younger somehow, and she was wearing robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself. They were holding hands and watching ships that looked like giant butterflies flying between floating islands. "Do you remember this place?" Luna asked him in the dream. David looked around and realized that yes, somehow he did remember. He remembered the smell of the air, sweet like honey and ozone. He remembered the feeling of the crystal platform beneath his feet, warm and alive. He remembered being incredibly happy, more happy than he had ever been in his current life. "This was our home," Luna continued. "Before you chose to be born on Earth, we lived here together for what your people would call centuries." When David woke up from that dream, his pillow was wet with tears. He couldn't understand why he was crying, but the sadness felt like losing something precious that he had forgotten he ever had. The dreams kept coming, night after night. He saw himself and Luna working together, using their minds to heal sick planets and bring life to dead worlds. He saw them flying through space without any ship, just holding each other as they traveled between stars. He saw a great council of beings from different worlds, and Luna standing up to speak while David sat proudly beside her. But it wasn't just dreams. Strange things started happening when David was awake too. One morning, his neighbor's dog got hit by a car. The poor animal was lying on the side of the road, barely breathing, and everyone thought it was going to die. David knelt down beside the dog and, without thinking about it, placed his hands on its injured body. He felt this warm energy flowing through his palms, and within minutes, the dog opened its eyes and stood up. Its injuries were completely healed. David's neighbor stared at him like he had just performed a magic trick. "How did you do that?" she asked. David didn't know how to answer because he honestly didn't know. The healing had happened automatically, like his hands knew what to do even though his mind was completely confused. After that, more strange abilities started showing up. David would know who was calling before he looked at his phone. He could sense when storms were coming days before the weather forecast predicted them. Sometimes, when he was really focused, he could even hear what people were thinking. The weirdest part was that none of it felt scary or wrong. It felt natural, like he was remembering skills he used to have, but had forgotten. 10 days after meeting Luna, David decided to drive into town to buy groceries. He rarely went into town because he preferred the peace and quiet of his mountain home, but he was running out of food and needed supplies. While he was in the grocery store, an elderly man collapsed near the produce section. David rushed over to help, and as soon as he touched the man's wrist to check his pulse, he somehow knew exactly what was wrong. The man was having a heart attack, but not a severe one. David could actually feel the blocked energy in the man's chest. Without thinking, David placed one hand on the man's chest and another on his back. That same warm energy flowed through his hands, and he watched as the man's color returned to normal and his breathing became steady. The paramedics arrived a few minutes later, and they were amazed to find the man sitting up and feeling perfectly fine. They ran tests, but couldn't find any sign that he had been having heart problems. On the drive home, David realized that these new abilities weren't random. They were preparing him for something. Luna had said he had a role to play in helping Earth through some kind of change. Maybe this was part of it. That night, David had the most vivid dream yet. He was back on Luna's world, But this time he was in what looked like a great library made of light. Luna was showing him books that weren't really books. They were more, like glowing spheres that contained entire universes of information. Your planet is going through what we call an awakening, Luna explained as they walked between the spheres of knowledge. For thousands of years, most humans have been spiritually asleep, but now that's changing. More and more people are starting to remember who they really are and where they really come from. She picked up one of the glowing spheres and handed it to David. As soon as he touched it, his mind was filled with images of Earth from space, but not the Earth he knew. This Earth was glowing with a soft golden light, and he could see streams of energy connecting every living thing on the planet. This is what Earth is becoming, Luna said. A world where people remember their connection to each other and to the universe. But the transition isn't easy. People are scared and confused by the changes they're feeling. That's where people like you come in. People like me? David asked. Souls who chose to be born on Earth, but whose true nature comes from the stars, Luna explained. You're here to help bridge the gap between the old way of thinking and the new. You're here to show people that abilities like healing and telepathy are natural gifts that everyone can develop. David looked around the library of light and felt a deep sense of purpose filling his chest. So all these dreams, all these new abilities, they're preparing me for this mission? Luna smiled and nodded. You're remembering who you truly are, David, and soon, very soon, we'll be working together again, just like we did in the old days. When David woke up from that dream, he felt different. The confusion and fear he had been carrying for the past 2 weeks were gone. Instead, he felt clear and focused, like a man who had finally found his true purpose in life. He looked at his calendar and saw that tomorrow night was the new moon. Tomorrow night, he would see Luna again, and this time he would be ready for whatever she had to teach him. As David made breakfast and prepared for another day of his regular life, he couldn't help but smile. He was still a computer programmer, living alone in a mountain cabin, but now he knew he was also something much more extraordinary. He was a bridge between worlds, and his real work was just beginning. The night of the new moon couldn't come fast enough for David. He spent the entire day pacing around his cabin, checking the clock every few minutes. By evening, he had cleaned his house twice, reorganized his telescope equipment, and made 3 cups of coffee that he forgot to drink. At 11:30, David walked out to the field where he had first met Luna. The night was perfectly clear, with no moon to light up the sky. The stars seemed brighter than usual, like they were excited about something too. David didn't have to wait long. At exactly midnight, that familiar blue glow appeared in the sky, growing larger as Luna's ship descended silently toward the field. This time, David wasn't scared or shocked. He felt like he was welcoming home someone he had missed terribly. Luna emerged from her ship with that same beautiful smile, but tonight she looked different, more solid somehow, more present. She walked toward David with her arms open, and without hesitation he stepped forward and hugged her. The moment they touched, David felt a rush of warmth and energy that went through his entire body. It was like coming home after being lost in the wilderness for years. You've grown so much in just 2 weeks, Luna said, still speaking directly into his mind. I can feel how much stronger you've become. I've been having dreams, David told her. Dreams about us, about your world, and strange things have been happening. I can heal people now, and sometimes I know things before they happen. Luna nodded knowingly. Your true abilities are awakening. This always happens when someone like you starts to remember who they really are. She took his hand and started walking toward a large boulder at the edge of the field. But tonight, I need to show you something much bigger. Something about why you're really here. Luna placed her hand on the boulder, and suddenly it began to glow with the same blue light as her ship. The rock face became transparent, and David could see inside it. There were crystals arranged in perfect geometric patterns, pulsing with different colors of light. "What is that?" David asked, staring in amazement. "It's one of thousands of energy points placed around your planet long ago," Luna explained. "My people and others like us have been visiting Earth for thousands of years, preparing it for what's happening now." As David watched, the crystals inside the boulder began to pulse faster, and he could feel energy radiating from them. It felt similar to the healing energy that flowed through his hands, but much, much stronger. "Your planet is like a giant living being," Luna continued. "And just like any living being, it has an energy system. What you're looking at is part of Earth's spiritual nervous system. These energy points are connected to sacred places all over the world, places your people call magical or holy." Luna waved her hand, and suddenly David could see lines of light stretching across the landscape in all directions. Some led toward distant mountains, others disappeared over the horizon. It was like looking at a map made of pure energy. "This is incredible," David whispered. "But what does it have to do with me?" "Everything," Luna replied. "People like you, people with cosmic souls, you're natural conductors for this energy. When you heal someone or have psychic experiences, you're tapping into this same universal power grid." Luna led David to another spot in the field, about 100 feet away. She knelt down and placed both hands on the ground, and immediately, the grass around her began to glow softly. "Try it," she said, gesturing for David to kneel beside her. "Put your hands on the earth and feel what's underneath." David knelt down and pressed his palms against the ground. At first he felt nothing but dirt and grass. But then, slowly, he began to sense something deeper. It was like feeling a heartbeat. But instead of blood pumping through veins, it was energy flowing through the earth itself. "I can feel it," David said, his voice full of wonder. "It's alive. The whole planet is alive." "Yes," Luna smiled. "And right now, Earth is going through a major transformation. Its energy frequency is rising, which means human consciousness is rising too. More and more people are starting to wake up to their true spiritual nature." Luna stood up and helped David to his feet. "But change isn't always easy. Many people are fighting this awakening because they're afraid of what they don't understand. They're experiencing anxiety, depression, and confusion as their old ways of thinking stop working." David thought about his neighbor's reaction when he healed her dog, and the paramedics' confusion when the elderly man recovered from his heart attack. He was starting to understand what Luna meant. "So what's my role in all this?" David asked. "You and others like you are here to help make the transition smoother," Luna explained. "You're bridges between the old world and the new. When people see you using abilities like healing and telepathy in natural, loving ways, it helps them understand that these gifts aren't scary or evil. They're just part of what humans are capable of when they remember their true nature." Luna walked over to her ship and gestured for David to follow her. "I want to show you something that will help you understand just how important this mission is." For the first time, David stepped inside Luna's spacecraft. The interior was nothing like what he expected from movies about flying saucers. Instead of cold metal and blinking lights, everything was soft and organic looking. The walls seemed to be made of the same living crystal he had seen in the boulder, and they pulsed gently with warm, comfortable light. In the center of the ship was what looked like a large sphere of water floating in the air. But as David got closer, he realized it wasn't water at all. It was some kind of liquid light that showed images like a three-dimensional movie screen. "This is how we monitor Earth's progress," Luna said, waving her hand toward the sphere. Immediately, images began appearing in the floating light. David saw cities from around the world, but each one was surrounded by colored energy fields. "The darker colors show areas where people are struggling with the changes," Luna explained, pointing to some cities that were surrounded by muddy brown and gray energy. "The brighter colors show places where the awakening is happening more smoothly." "David, watched in fascination as the images changed, showing him different parts of the world. Some areas glowed with beautiful golden and blue light, while others were surrounded by swirling clouds of dark energy. "It looks like a battle between light and darkness," David observed. "In a way it is," Luna agreed. "But it's not a battle fought with weapons. It's a battle between fear and love, between old patterns of thinking and new possibilities. And people like you are some of our most important allies in this fight." Luna touched the sphere, and the images changed to show individual people. David saw men and women of all ages who seemed to glow with the same kind of energy he had been feeling lately. "These are your teammates," Luna said. "Other cosmic souls living as humans all around the world. Most of them don't know about their true nature yet, but they're all starting to awaken just like you did." "Will I meet them?" David asked. "Some of them, yes. And when you do, you'll recognize each other instantly, the same way you recognized me." Luna smiled and touched David's face gently. "But first, you have work to do right here. This area where you live is going to become very important in the coming years. There are several major energy points nearby that need to be activated." "How do I activate them?" David asked. "The same way you've been healing people," Luna replied. "With love, intention, and the energy that flows through your hands. But it's bigger work than healing individuals. You'll be helping to heal the earth itself." As they talked, David felt a deep sense of purpose settling into his bones. Everything that had happened to him, the loneliness, the fascination with stars, the move to his grandfather's remote cabin, it had all been leading to this moment. "When do we start?" David asked. Luna's smile was brighter than the stars outside. "We already have. Every person you heal. Every moment of peace you bring to someone who's scared and confused. Every time you help someone remember that love is stronger than fear. You're already doing the work." She walked him back outside, where the night air felt charged with possibility. "I'll be coming to see you more often now," Luna said. "And soon I'll be able to stay for longer periods. The energy changes on Earth are making it easier for beings like me to exist in your dimension." As her ship lifted off into the starry sky, David stood in the field feeling more alive and purposeful than he had ever felt in his life. He was no longer just a lonely computer programmer living in the mountains. He was a cosmic healer, and his real work was just beginning. Over the next few months, Luna began visiting David almost every week. Each time she came, she seemed more solid, more present in his world. What started as brief meetings in the field gradually became longer visits where they would walk through the mountains together, talking about everything from cosmic philosophy to David's childhood memories. During one of these walks, Luna told David something that changed everything between them. "I need you to understand something important," she said, as they sat by a small stream that ran through his property. "The connection we share isn't just about our mission to help Earth. It goes much deeper than that." David had been wondering about this himself. Every time Luna appeared, he felt this overwhelming sense of love and belonging that went far beyond friendship or even partnership. It was like she was a part of him that had been missing his entire life. "In the dimension where I normally exist," Luna continued, "time works differently than it does here. What you experience as past, present, and future all happen at the same time for us. So when I tell you that we've been together before, I don't just mean in past lives. I mean we're together right now, in other dimensions, living other versions of this same love story." David felt his heart racing as Luna spoke. "Are you saying that somewhere else, in some other version of reality, we're already together?" Luna smiled and took his hand. The moment their fingers touched, David's vision changed completely. Suddenly, he could see himself and Luna in what looked like hundreds of different scenes, all happening at the same time. In one, they were dancing, at a celebration on her home world. surrounded by beings of light who were cheering for them. In another, they were flying through space together, exploring new galaxies and bringing healing energy to planets that needed help. In yet another, they were sitting in a garden filled with flowers that sang instead of growing silently. These aren't just visions, Luna explained as David watched these impossible scenes unfold in his mind. These are all real. They're all happening right now in different layers of reality. The only reason you can't normally see them is because human consciousness is usually focused on just one dimension at a time. But why? David asked, feeling tears running down his face without knowing why he was crying. If we're already together in all these other places, why do I feel so lonely here? Why does it hurt so much when you leave? Luna's expression became sad and loving at the same time. Because this version of you, the David who lives on Earth, right now, chose to forget about all those other dimensions so you could focus completely on your mission here. It was a sacrifice you made out of love for humanity and love for the greater good of the universe. David felt like his heart was breaking and healing at the same time. So I chose to be lonely. You chose to experience separation so you could better understand what humans go through, Luna said gently. How could you help people who feel lost and alone if you had never felt that way yourself? Your loneliness, your searching, your feeling of not belonging, all of that was preparation for the work you're doing now. As the weeks passed, David began to understand what Luna meant. During his healing sessions with people who came to him for help, he found that his own experiences of loneliness and searching made him much more compassionate and effective. When someone told him they felt like they didn't belong anywhere, David knew exactly how that felt. But knowing about his multi-dimensional connection with Luna also made their relationship deeper and more beautiful. Sometimes, when they were together, David would catch glimpses of those other versions of their love story. He would see flashes of their wedding ceremony on Luna's home world, or remember moments when they had worked together to heal entire civilizations. The most amazing part was that Luna was beginning to exist more fully in his dimension. What had started as brief visits was turning into days where she could stay with him almost like a normal person. She still couldn't eat human food or sleep the way humans do, but she could touch things, interact with his environment, and even be seen by other people. This led to one of the most challenging parts of David's journey. One afternoon, while Luna was helping David tend to his garden, his neighbor stopped by unexpectedly. David had been so focused on his work with Luna that he had forgotten how shocking her appearance might be to someone who wasn't prepared. His neighbor, an elderly woman named Rose who lived about a mile down the road, took one look at Luna and nearly fainted. "David," Rose whispered, staring at Luna with wide eyes. "Who is that? She's glowing." David looked at Luna, who was indeed surrounded by a soft, silvery light that he had gotten so used to that he barely noticed it anymore. Luna smiled kindly at Rose and spoke out loud instead of using telepathy. "Hello, Rose," Luna said in a voice that sounded like music. "I'm a friend of David's. There's nothing to be afraid of." Rose stared for a long moment, then surprised both David and Luna by smiling back. "You're one of them, aren't you? One of the angels people have been talking about seeing around here lately." "Angels?" David asked, confused. Rose nodded enthusiastically. "Oh, yes, there have been reports all over the county, people seeing beings of light, experiencing miraculous healings, having dreams about flying through space. The local church doesn't know what to make of it all." David realized that his work was having a bigger impact than he had understood. The energy he had been channeling, the healing he had been doing, and the changes happening to the Earth's energy grid were affecting the entire area. "Rose," David said carefully, "what I'm about to tell you might sound strange, but I need you to know that everything happening around here is positive. The beings people are seeing, the healings, the dreams, it's all part of something wonderful. That's happening to our world." Over the next hour, David and Luna explained to Rose about the spiritual awakening happening on Earth. They told her about the cosmic souls who had come to help with the transition and about the importance of approaching these changes with love instead of fear. Rose listened to everything with surprising openness. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You know," she finally said, "I've been having the most beautiful dreams lately. Dreams about flying among the stars and feeling more peaceful than I've ever felt in my life. And yesterday, when I was working in my garden, I swear the flowers started glowing just like you do, dear," she said to Luna. "You're awakening too, Rose," Luna said gently. "Many people in this area are beginning to remember their cosmic nature. David's work here is helping to activate abilities that have been sleeping in people for lifetimes." After Rose left, David felt a new understanding of his mission. It wasn't just about healing individuals or activating energy points in the earth. It was about helping entire communities transform and awaken to their true spiritual nature. "This is bigger than I thought." "It was," David told Luna that evening as they watched the sunset from his porch. "Much bigger," Luna agreed, taking his hand. "And it's going to get even bigger. Soon you'll be ready for the next phase of our work together." "What's the next phase?" David asked. Luna smiled mysteriously. "You'll see. But I will tell you this. Soon I'll be able to stay with you permanently. The dimensional barriers are weakening as Earth's consciousness rises. Before long, beings like me will be able to live openly among humans, helping with the transition instead of working secretly from the shadows." That night, as David lay in bed, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey he had been on. Yes, he had experienced loneliness and confusion, but those experiences had led him to this incredible love and purpose. He was no longer just a man who felt different from everyone else. He was part of a cosmic love story that spanned multiple dimensions, and his work was helping to awaken an entire planet to its true spiritual potential. As he drifted off to sleep, David could feel Luna's presence, even though she had returned to her ship for the night. Their connection had grown so strong that distance and dimension couldn't separate them anymore. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to serve, but tonight, David felt completely at peace, surrounded by a love that transcended time, space, and reality itself. 6 months after David first met Luna, everything in his life had transformed completely. What started as secret meetings in a field had become a partnership that was changing not just David's life, but the lives of everyone in his community. Luna now spent most of her time on Earth, living with David in his mountain cabin. The dimensional barriers had weakened so much that she could exist almost like a regular person, though she still glowed softly and didn't need to eat or sleep the way humans do. Their love had grown into something David never could have imagined possible. It wasn't just romance, it was a complete union of souls that transcended everything he had ever understood about relationships. When they worked together now, healing people or activating energy points around the mountains, they moved as one being with 2 bodies. The most amazing change was in David himself. The lonely, searching man who used to spend his nights staring at stars through a telescope had become someone who radiated peace and confidence. People from all over Colorado were traveling to see him, drawn by stories of miraculous healings and spiritual guidance. David had turned his grandfather's old barn into a healing center where people could come to work through their spiritual awakening symptoms. Every day, his schedule was full of appointments with people experiencing anxiety, depression, strange dreams, and psychic abilities they didn't understand. "I keep having dreams about flying through space," a young woman named Claire told David during one of their sessions. "And sometimes I wake up and swear I can still feel the stars touching my skin. Am I going crazy?" David smiled and placed his hands gently on Claire's shoulders. Immediately, that familiar warm energy began flowing through him. "You're not going crazy," he assured her. "You're remembering who you really are. Those dreams are glimpses of your cosmic soul's true nature." As David worked with Claire, Luna stood nearby, invisible to everyone except David and the few people whose psychic abilities had developed enough to see her. But even though most people couldn't see Luna, they could feel her presence. Many of David's clients commented on how peaceful and safe they felt in the healing center. After Claire left, feeling much calmer and more centered, Luna materialized fully and hugged David from behind. "She's going to be one of the teachers," Luna said, referring to Claire. "I can see her future path. Within a year, she'll be helping other people understand their cosmic dreams and abilities." This was how it worked now. David would help people through their initial awakening, and many of them would go on to become healers and teachers themselves. It was like ripples spreading out from a stone dropped in a pond, with each person David helped going on to help others. But their work wasn't limited to individual healing sessions. David and Luna had also been traveling to specific locations around the western United States, activating major energy points that Luna's people had identified as crucial for Earth's transformation. Last month, they had driven to a remote spot in Arizona where Luna showed David an ancient crystal formation buried deep underground. Working together, they had sent healing energy into the crystals, which then transmitted that energy through underground networks to other sacred sites hundreds of miles away. "It's like we're rewiring the planet's spiritual nervous system," David had told Luna as they watched the crystals begin to pulse with renewed life. "Exactly," Luna had replied. "And every time we activate one of these major points, it makes it easier for people all over the world to access their cosmic abilities." The results of their work were becoming visible everywhere. David's blog, which he still maintained, was now getting messages from people around the world, sharing their own experiences with cosmic beings, healing abilities, and spiritual awakenings. 1. Email came from a man in Japan who wrote, "I've been having the same dreams you describe in your blog. Flying through space with a being of light who feels like my soulmate. Last week, she appeared to me while I was awake, and now she's teaching me to heal people just like you do." Another message came from a woman in Brazil. A glowing woman appeared to me during meditation and told me to find your website. She said you would understand what's happening to me. I can now heal plants and animals just by touching them, and sometimes I can see the future in my dreams. David realized that Luna's people were making contact with cosmic souls all over the planet. The awakening wasn't just happening in Colorado, it was happening everywhere. "How many of us are there?" David asked Luna one evening as they sat on their porch, watching the stars come out. "More than you might think," Luna replied. "And the number is growing every day. Some are cosmic souls who chose to be born human, like you. Others are humans whose DNA is naturally evolving to accommodate higher consciousness abilities. And still others are beings like me who are choosing to take physical form to help with the transition. What happens when we're all awakened?" David wondered. Luna was quiet for a moment, and David could feel her consciousness expanding to access information from higher dimensions. "Earth becomes what it was always meant to be," she finally said. "A planet where love is stronger than fear, where people understand their connection to each other and to the universe, where abilities like healing and telepathy are as natural as breathing." "And us?" David asked, taking Luna's glowing hand in his. "What happens to us?" Luna smiled that radiant smile that had first captivated David in the field behind his cabin. "We continue our work, but on a much larger scale. Once Earth's transformation is complete, we'll help guide other planets through their own awakenings. The universe is full of worlds that are ready to evolve beyond fear and separation." "You mean we'll travel to other planets together?" "We'll travel to other dimensions, other galaxies, other realities," Luna said, her eyes sparkling with stardust. "Our love story is eternal, David. It doesn't end when one mission is completed. It just grows and expands into new adventures." That night, David had a dream that felt more real than waking life. He and Luna were standing before a great council of beings from across the universe. The council chamber was made of pure light, and the beings themselves looked like living stars. "The Earth Project has been successful," one of the council members announced. "Humanity has successfully awakened to its cosmic nature. The planet is ready to join the galactic community." In the dream, David looked down at Earth from space and saw that the entire planet was now glowing with the same soft light that surrounded Luna. Every human being sparkled with cosmic energy, and streams of light connected every living thing in a beautiful web of consciousness. "Congratulations," another council member said to David and Luna. "Your partnership has helped guide an entire species through its spiritual evolution. Are you ready for your next assignment?" David looked at Luna, who smiled and nodded. "We're ready," David heard himself say. When David woke up, Luna was sitting beside him, also glowing more brightly than usual. "You felt it too, didn't you?" she asked. "The dream wasn't really a dream. It was a glimpse of the future we're creating together." David sat up and looked out the window. The sun was just rising over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. But now, David could see something else in the morning light. Streams of energy connecting every tree, every rock, every living thing in sight. "It's already happening," David whispered in amazement. "The whole world is awakening." Luna nodded and stood up, extending her hand to David. "Come on," she said. "We have work to do." As they walked outside together, David felt a deep sense of completion and new beginning at the same time. His journey from lonely stargazer to cosmic healer was complete, but his journey as Luna's eternal partner was just beginning. Above them, the morning sky was filled with lights that weren't quite stars and weren't quite aircraft. David smiled, knowing that Luna's people were no longer hiding. The age of secret cosmic contact was ending, and the age of open cooperation between Earth and the stars was about to begin. Hand in hand with his beloved cosmic goddess, David walked toward whatever adventure awaited them next, knowing that their love would continue guiding the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe for all eternity. The boy who once felt alone under the stars had found his way home at last, and that home was wherever Luna was, in whatever dimension their mission called them to serve.